Good morning, everyone. Teacher Thomas Thailand here in beautiful Ban Chang Rayong, Thailand. I wanted to make a short video this morning that I hope will be helpful for all of those that are extending their non-immigrant O visa this year in 2020. I have just completed my application. I had a visit from the immigration officers here at the house, and the application is then sent off to headquarters in Chiang Watana. So basically, I'm just waiting for a call from the immigration office to come get the stamp for 2021, and yet I will be extended for another year, which is my fifth consecutive year of extending my non O marriage visa. Now, many of you may be on a non OA or a non O category that is related to retirement. Okay, so this video will also explain the step-by-step process that you would do for your application for extension of 1 year. Now, my visa specifically is what they call the non-O family. Uh, it's based on my marriage to a Thai citizen, but it could also be based on other family members that are Thai citizens. Say you had an adopted child or some other connection to Thai family. So it's not strictly a marriage visa. It's non-O based on family of a Thai citizen. The non-OA or non-O other categories that are based on retirement have different restrictions and guidelines and requirements because you are not connected to a Thai national based on your extension. You are doing it as a retired individual with no family connections. So there are a few differences. But in this video, I don't want you to think, well, I'm non-O retirement. I don't need to watch this. This is not going to be helpful to me. Actually, I've created this acronym that's FYWH, and I made a video last year when I extended my visa because, as a former military guy, acronyms are always helpful in remembering things and also how to process things. So that's why I created this acronym. But if you're on a retirement visa and you're like, this is not going to be helpful, just take out the W, which stands for the wife, and pretty much the application is going to be the same. So FYH, right? The reason I did that is because I have a total of 34 pages in my application. So if you just put all those pages together in one big pile and say, look, this is what you need to do, it's a little overwhelming from page one to the final page, right? So by using this acronym, you can break all of these documents down into different categories, and it kind of simplifies the process. Now, I just want to make a statement that I've never used an agency for my extensions every year. I've always done it on my own. And I've seen some, different Thai vloggers and different comments about, oh, you're just a cheap Charlie if you don't use an agency, especially during this time of the health crisis with COVID-19. Why would you, take the risk of going to the immigration office and processing this yourself? You're just a cheap Charlie because you don't want to pay the agency fee and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Well, I'm not a cheap Charlie, but the reason I don't use an agency or an attorney is because I like to gain knowledge of the process. I've always been one of those people that's kind of a perfectionist, and I don't like just handing something off and say, here, you do it. Even though I could afford to do that, I would rather gain the knowledge from the experience. And as every expat in Thailand will tell you that's been here a number of years, there's a lot of changes that occur in the process itself, in the application, the requirements. So if you're doing it yourself, you're kind of forced to stay on top of these issues. And then after you complete the process of the application, you have a little gratitude for the fact that you were 100% correct with all your documents, and you were able to understand the changes and make sure that what you presented to the immigration office was complete and accepted. So it's very gratifying. So there's a lot of reasons to do this yourself, uh, other than just the extension, the approval of the 1 year visa. I mean, it just depends on you yourself. If you'd rather not be bothered with all the requirements and changes and stuff, then by all means pass it off to an agency and pay the money and save you some headache. But what I try to do is for people that do want to gain this knowledge and do want to do this themselves, or maybe they don't have additional money to pay an agency and have to go through this big headache every year, I try to simplify things in an effort to assist people to be sure that they can complete this application on the first run and not have any problems where they have to come back, they didn't have a document, stuff like that. All right, so let's get to it. It should be really quick. It's really not that difficult when you break it down. So again, here's the acronym FYWH. F is for forms, Y is for you, you. W is for your wife, or if you had another family relative, the same documents would apply. If you're on a non-OA retirement, just forget about the wife. And then the last one is H for the house. Just an acronym I created. Doesn't mean it's perfect, but it does help simplify things. So let's do the first one, right? F. Everyone knows that, or if you don't know, the form, the main form that you have to fill out regardless of your extension. Even if you was extending your tourist visa for 30 days, you would use what's called a TM7, okay? TM7. Now, we use this when we extend our 1 year application, and we're asking for what? We're asking for 365 days, right? So they want you to specify how many days you're asking for. So remember, the TM7, that's the key. That's the form you want to start with. It's a two-sided form. On the back is your ugly mug and your address, okay? So you have to have that. What's the next form? Okay, well, there's two forms, and they're considered like acknowledgments. That's all they are. They're very, very simple. So let's look at the first acknowledgment. Acknowledgment of, which one did I have listed first? Terms. Okay, the terms. The terms and conditions. All this does is state again, what is the reason you want to extend your visa, okay? I say to live with and support my Thai wife, right? So you state that on your TM7. What reason are you looking to extend your visa, right? So it's just like a duplicate, but all you're acknowledging is the reason you wish to stay, okay? So as far as I know, this form doesn't really have a number. It's in Thai. It does have a 2 up there, but just remember it's the acknowledgement of the terms, okay? Terms and conditions. All you're saying is the exact same thing you said on the TM7. Why do you wish to have an extension, okay? Then there's one more, which is the penalties. Okay, penalties. It's just an acknowledgement that you just sign off on saying you understand all of the penalties for overstay and all that, right? So these are the Thai laws that would apply to you if you had some kind of a violation. What are the penalties for that violation? So that's it, guys. That's the 3 forms. And it's very important to start with those, right? Start with those forms, because regardless of what visa you're extending, you need to do these 3 forms, okay? So we got F out of the way. Let's go to Y for you, right? So as you can see, you need your passport, you need all pages, you need your bank book. Now this is a key difference. Your bank book for a marriage visa, you need to have 400,000 baht. Retirement visa, double to 800,000 baht. You need a letter of statement from your bank, and insurance if you're on a retirement visa. Okay, so this is all about you. What do you need to provide? Okay, now I'm on a marriage visa, so I didn't have to provide my insurance. I have insurance, but it's not requirement. So Thailand gives you a little bit of a break if you are married or have a Thai family connection that are not requiring insurance as of yet. All right. So, again, the passport. You need to start with your cover page, as everyone knows, your nationality and your photo. And then, really important, you didn't need to go back through all of your pages if you traveled to many other countries. They don't want to see all that, okay? So, the very next page that you're going to start with is your original visa, Okay, my visa was issued in Vientiane, Laos, back in 2016. So you start with that original visa issuance. This is the visa that I am extending. It's the same visa that I've extended for 5 years now. Okay, so you just go from the cover to this page. You know, you may have a lot of stuff before you did this visa. They don't want to see that. Just they're going to throw it out. It's in their way. They want to see this one. This is basically the first one after the cover, and then all the way till your last extension. Whoops, that's my all the way to your very last stamp, whether you had a re-entry or whatever, your most current stamp. So it's going to be the last page of your passport, right? So from the visa that you originally got to have the non-O or the non-OA all the way to your last stamp, whether it was a re-entry stamp or whatever. And then very importantly, have your arrival card or when last time you arrived. You know, I left the country last year, so my arrival card is in September 2019, before the COVID, which is very important that you can prove when you arrived anymore. And yeah, that's the card. And then what is that that's on there with it? Oh, that was when I did the TM30 and changed my address. They give you a little slip that confirms your address. So I just put the arrival card and my new address together on one page. So that's it, right? So passport, all your pages, right? So next thing we go to is your bank, right? First thing, you're going to get a letter from your bank. Your bank is just going to certify that you have either 400,000 or 800,000 baht in the bank, right? And then after that, you're going to want to get a bank statement from them that shows the dates, right? And it shows how long that money's been in there, because you need this money in the bank 3 months prior to your application. If you're extending for the second time, if you're doing it for your first year, you need it in there for 2 months. I recommend that you do it 3 months ahead of time. My application starts in April. I just did it during Songkran this year because the offices were open. Very strange. But so I made sure I had that lump sum amount in January. So I had January, February, March, and then April my application, right? So there's no question I had it in there early enough. And then May is when my visa actually expires, which is a good thing to do. Always go like 30 days before your visa expires if you can, to start this process, okay? So there's your bank statement, the letter and the statement. And then I copy my actual bank book, which is like a little register, all the pages of that, and they kept all of this, so obviously it was helpful for them. Not saying that's absolutely required, but I would do that if I was you. So there you go. You have your bank book, and you have to update your bank book, this ledger right here. This last page of your bank book has to have the same day as your application. So the day you go to the immigration office, you have to update that, which proves that you have that money as of that day, right? So if you had it yesterday and it hasn't been updated, they're going to reject you, because they can say, well, you had 400,000 baht yesterday, but how do we know that you didn't take it all out today and you're trying to, right? So that is something that has to be updated the day of the application, okay? So that's that. So let's move on. We're still on U. U is a big one. All right. So what else do we have on U? Let's see. Insurance. Yeah, insurance if you're on the retirement visa. Okay, that would be your additional thing. All right. So your all of your passport, your bank book that's been updated with the required amount. 400,000 for the marriage, 800,000 for the retirement. Your letter from your bank and your bank statement. Okay. We also need to cover insurance if you're on a retirement visa. All right. I won't go into detail on that because if you're on a retirement visa, you can find out what the insurance requirements are that you have to prove. You get a certification letter from your insurance company that you meet the requirements of the Thailand immigration for the amount and type of insurance you have. So let's move on to my wife. Okay, well, it's pretty basic, right? You need her ID, her house book. Anybody that doesn't know, a house book is called a Tombian bond. Every Thai citizen has a house book. It's legal proof of your original residence. Right? My wife's from Udon Thani in Isan, but even though she hasn't lived there in a long time, her house book remains with that original uh, address. Okay, and then your marriage license prove that you're married. Very importantly, you need to update that you are married. You go to the local AMPO office, which is like a city hall. You pay them like 100 baht, and they get on the computer and they see that your marriage is still valid. You have not been divorced. They give you a form, stamped, updated. The immigration wants to know. So you can't just have your marriage license from 5 years ago and use that. They want to see that it's still valid, and that's how you do that in Thailand. You go to the local city hall and get it uploaded. Okay, and then there's also a checklist form. So let's go through that real quick. Pretty basic, your wife's ID, boom, right? Copied, she has to sign, of course. Her house book, boom, Tombi and Bond. Your marriage license, right? Boom. Here's the updated form from the AMPO, right? All in Thai. Very important, has a date stamp right here so the immigration office can see that you went to the local city hall and you have proof that your marriage is still legally valid. This is a document that illegally changed my wife's name to my surname. This has to be done at her local AMFO. We had to travel to Udon Thani, go to her hometown, and get this document, right? So she brought proof that we're married and those two forms right there, and they gave her this document which proves that her name has legally been changed. That is required. Okay, and then the last thing is this checklist, and every year my wife has had to fill this out. It's basically just an affirmation. She just goes through and checks all these things that apply, and she's just confirming that we've been together for so long. My husband has this bank account, like all of these different things. What was different this year, instead of doing this checkbox in the office like it has been done in the previous 4 years, the immigration officer actually pulled up this form on the computer and interviewed my wife about these questions, these itemized statements, and checked them and did it. So the immigration officer actually did this online and then printed it out for my wife to sign it. So depending on what immigration office you go to, not all of them are the same. This is a required document, this checklist. It has no English and I cannot read Thai, so I don't know what it is. Just you can pick them up at the local immigration office. Maybe not all immigration offices are doing this online as they did here in Rayong. Okay, so that's it for the wife, right? That's it. That's all of her stuff, right? So the last thing, we go to the house, and this applies to everyone, whether you're on a retirement visa or not, right? So let's go to the house. What's the first thing you need? You need your lease agreement, right? Gotta have your lease or rental contract. Now, what if your wife owns the house? Then that's a different story. Then she becomes the master of the house, and you don't have a lease agreement with her because she owns the property, right? So you obviously, this applies to those of us that are leasing property and not owning property. If you own the property, you can skip this step because you don't have a lease agreement, right? But you will go to the next step, which is the homeowner or possessor, which is key because sometimes the owner of the house is not the person that you rented the house from, right? A lot of times the owner will have power of attorney to a third party who actually is like an agent that rents their properties. So their ID and their house book would be what you used if they have the legal power of attorney from the owner, right? So this is important. It's owner or possessor, whichever one you made the contract with, right? And if you own your own house, obviously it's only going to be the owner if your wife owns the house, right? So you're not going to have a lease contract, but here's the house book, or I'm sorry, the ID of the home owner, right? Now, if it's like say you may not need this if you have a third party that has legal power of attorney from the owner to lease the product, the house, right? So that would be the possessor, right? Make sure you know which one has the legal right to rent the house. Because what the problem is, like if you have a third party that signs the lease agreement with you, and then you use their ID and their house book, right? And you go to the immigration office and you find out that that third party does not have power of attorney from the owner of the property to make that lease contract. So the immigration office is going to tell you, nope, go get the ID and the house book of the owner and have the owner sign the lease contract. Okay, this is a problem I know many people run into, and it's very important that you make sure you know for sure who has the legal authority to rent you the property. Okay, so question, if you have a third party, question them before you go, because even if they are the only signature on the lease contract, if they don't have that legal power of attorney to from the owner, you can't use their documents. The immigration office is going to reject it, and they're very, very particular about this. So remember, there's a difference between the owner and the possessor. You need the owner. The possessor can make the contract if they have the legal authority to do so. So that's it, basically, right? Hmm? And then another thing that's very important that you can throw in, which this is your water bill and your electric bill, right? Which is going to be in the name of the owner, right? So the immigration office actually required us to bring in a copy of the electric and water bill because we have a third party possessor, right, that we have the contract with. And there was a question as to did that third party have that power of attorney, right? Well, they don't. So we made sure that before we went, they didn't. So we had to make sure we got the owner, not the third party possessor. And then to prove who was the actual owner, bring in a copy of your electric and water bill, because that's going to be in the name of the person that owns the house. That's not going to be in a third party name, right? Not the way it works here. So that's it for that part. Now, finally, on the house, you're going to need a map. Okay. So this map, you can just draw it yourself. I just kind of look at the Google location from the immigration office to your house, right? Right? So here's the immigration office, and then I give them the route to come to our home, right? Now I did this in color and gave them a color copy so they could see, a little clearer. So the immigration officers are going to come to your house if you're on a family visa, right? I don't know if they do that on a retirement visa because I've never been on a retirement visa. Maybe they don't come visit you. I don't know. If you're on a retirement visa, maybe you could comment on that. But for sure, if you're on a marriage visa, family visa, they're going to come visit your house, okay? So you need that map. Let's see, what's next? Oh, photos of you and your wife at the house, right? So you have, the bedroom, the dining room, and the outdoors. You can see the address in the background, and then the full house in the background, right? So you definitely have to have that. And then finally, after we've done well, so we have the lease and the ID and house book of owner, possessor, uh, the electric and water bill. Then we go on photos at the house, map to the house. Finally, there's one more thing. You have to have a witness. The witness will go with you to the immigration office when you turn in your application. So you need a witness. And here's one of the changes that have happened over the last couple of years that didn't apply before. And again, different immigration districts have different rules, but now, like, your witness has to live in the same province that you do. Before, we used to use witnesses that were just Thai people. You have their ID and their house book, right? This is my witness. They are verifying that I know these people. I know the house that they live in, right? So they're verifying you're married and that you live in this house. That's why I put this under house, okay? But now, make sure that your witness lives in your same province, okay? Very important. And then, yeah, that's it. The witness actually has a form that they fill out, but that's given to them on site. It's not something you can do ahead of time. It's a form that they have to fill out and sign in front of the immigration officer. Now, I can attest that this application is 100% complete. Okay? It was accepted 100%. 34 pages. Now, yours may not be 34 because it depends on how many pages you have in your passbook and stuff, or your passport, all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't mean yours is going to be actually 34 like mine is. And then, very important, you have to have two copies. One of them has to be originals of everything, original penned ink signatures, right? The other one can be photocopies of all the originals, right? But you have to turn in two copies to them, okay? Very important. So I went from 34 pages to actually 68 is what I had to provide. And then I made a third copy for my records, right? So next year it'll be a little bit easier. If there's some kind of a new change, I can be like, oh, what did we do last year? Because I don't know about you, but after 12 months, it's hard for me to remember everything that happened the previous year. So I hope that helps everybody. Finally, I just want to say during this time of COVID-19, I was very, very impressed with the office at Rayong, the immigration office. They had a queue outside. They had overhead canopies because it's very hot this time of year. I actually did my application on Monday, the week of Songkran, which they would normally be closed. And again, I always turn in my application 30 days prior to my visa expiring. That way, if there's a hiccup or something, I have that time. But even if you're turning it in the day you expire, as long as it's accepted, right? The day your visa expires, not the day after, but the day it's going to expire, you're there, you're turning your application, it's 100% correct. You did all of this correctly on your own. You turned it in. They're going to stamp your passport says that the immigrant is under consideration for extension of stay. And what that's basically going to do is going to give you an additional 30 days because there's a review process. Immigration officers come to visit your house. They have to send the whole thing off to headquarters. My headquarters is Chiang Watana in Bangkok in the district I live in. If you live in Isan, you may have a headquarters in Khon Kaen or whatever, right? But whatever the headquarters, central headquarters is of your region, that's where your one of all of the originals go there. The local immigration office keeps that other copy, right? So you always have those two. And then once the central office approves the application, which is 99.9% guaranteed because the local immigration officer is not going to accept your application if there's something missing or something inaccurate. So that local immigration officer, when they send it to headquarters, if it doesn't get accepted by headquarters, it's kind of on the local immigration officer that they didn't do their job, right? Because they're not supposed to be sending anything in that isn't already 100% correct and complete, right? So it's basically just a formality. So sometimes this takes about 30 days from the time you turn in your application. You get a visit from immigration officers, then they mail it off to the local or to the central headquarters, right? That takes time. They review it. They actually physically mail it back. There are emails that they can see from headquarters that yes, the application was approved, right? It's complete and everything. But oftentimes they have to wait for that physical mail, right, of those original copies that are all stamped by headquarters before they call you and say, hey, come get your 2021 stamp, right? So that's where I'm at. I'm in that process of waiting for the call. Everything has been completed. We're just waiting on that call. So that's why I do it 30 days ahead of time because, I don't, I don't, I don't like to be in limbo there where, I turned it in, I got it all accepted before my visa expired. So I'm still good, but, now I have to wait for the 30-day process and, you know, technically I do get a stamp under consideration, which means you turned in your application before it expired. So you're still good to go. But if you can, I recommend you start this application process 30 days before your visa expires. And they will accept it 30 days before. So you don't have to wait till the week before for them to accept it. But Rayong did an excellent job. Obviously, I can't speak for everybody's precinct. As you know, they granted amnesty to temporary tourist visas after March 26, so that eliminated a lot of people that would normally be going to the immigration office. Basically, the only people that were there were doing the 1 year extensions, and of course, you still have your agencies that have big piles and of applications and big piles of passports for migrant workers and stuff like that. So all that was still going on, but you didn't see anybody there, extending a tourist visa and stuff like that. It was basically everybody doing 1 year extensions, so that really helped. But they only allowed a very few people in the office indoors at one time, so everybody was in queue outside. I was very impressed. I mean, who would ever think that you're going to be, an immigrant applying for an extension, keeping your legal status in the country during a pandemic. I mean, nobody's done this before, so you have to give credit where credit is due. All these immigration officers and the queues they had set up outside. I mean, it was very well done. The only difference that I noticed, mine was actually processed very fast. So I turned it in on Monday of Songkran, which I don't know. Don't quote me correctly. I think April 13, maybe 14, that Monday of Songkran. Turned in the application, it was 100% accepted because I had everything complete. If you have one form that's not complete or one mistake, they will not accept it. Okay, it's not. There's no so-so or maybes. You know, it doesn't work that way. It has to be exactly right, or they won't accept it because they know it's going to be rejected by headquarters. So they're going to tell you, hey, go get this document. You didn't update your bank book. You didn't update your marriage, whatever it was, right? So once they accept it, it's pretty much guaranteed you're going to get your 1 year extension once it's accepted. So we did that on a Monday, and then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday are the official holidays of Songkran, which normally they would be closed, right? So by Thursday, they called. They were within an hour of our location. The immigration called. We have immigration officers on the way to your house. So that was a rapid, 3 days after the application, they're already visiting us at the house. Amazing. So we had to call the witness that went with us to immigration and have them come to the house because when they do the house visit, they want that witness there again. As a matter of fact, the only form that is signed during the house visit is signed by the witness. Your application's already completed. You've already signed all the forms. So has your wife, right? You've already finished everything. But when the immigration officers are visiting the house, they have to have that same witness there to sign off, okay? And then one of the big differences is in the past, we've had as many as 6 immigration officers visit us at home. Last year it was 6 up in Nakhon Nayok province, and they had the paddy wagon. They had the whole thing ready to take somebody that was doing a scam marriage or, a false application, whatever. If you were in violation, you were going to be carted away right then. It was really serious. This year there was only 2 officers, and they never entered the house, which is obviously because of the COVID. Before, they always, like those 6 officers, they all came in the house. We had group photos with the officers in the house, right? And they took photos of us again in the different rooms, the bedroom, the kitchen, the living room, the dining room, whatever, right? So they double confirm with photos that you already provided and photos outdoors, right? So normally every year they've always come into the house and done all of this, taken photos of you with your passport open with immigration officers. This year they didn't enter the house. They only took photos of us outside and out front of the house along with the witness. So that was it. They didn't enter the house. So, but think about it. Turned in my application on Monday, had a visit from immigration officers on Thursday. Wow, that's pretty rapid. That's never happened before. It's always been at least a week or two before you got a visit to the house. So to have that turnover in 3 days shows you that they're doing what they need to do. And Rayong's a big district with a lot of expats in this area. huge number of expats. We're a beach community, so they were really doing it. But remember that, they don't always give you a lot of notice when they come do the house visit. They called us, hey, we're an hour away. So we had to rapidly, what if our witness wouldn't have been available? Something like that. So they would have had to obviously come back at a later date if you couldn't get your witness there. But luckily we were able to pull it together. So there is a lot of short notice on the house visits. They don't want to notify you the day before. It's kind of a surprise, right? They're kind of verifying that everything you turned in on that application is true, right? So that's the reason for no notice. But anyway, I hope this helps anyone that's trying to do this application themselves. Again, this is all updated with 2020 requirements. My application was accepted on the first try. There's zero problems, right? And boy, I've seen a lot of people in there getting rejected over a document or two, and they try to get argumentative and combatant with with the immigration officer. And I wish I could tell them, hey guys, it's not their fault, right? They're not going to accept what you providing them because it doesn't meet the requirements. I've seen guys like trying to verify their income without a bank book, trying to use some other document. Hey, this is my income, blah, blah. You can argue till you're blue in the face, man. It doesn't matter. There's no exceptions. There's no so-so. Maybe this application will pass. No, it's either 100% complete and accurate and they can send it to headquarters, or it's not. It doesn't matter if it's 99.9% correct, you know, or if it's 30% correct. Either way, it could be totally jacked up or just off by one little document. They can't accept it, right? Don't argue. Don't be combative. Be respectful, right? So anyway, I hope this helps you. And if you have any questions or comments, please put it in the comments below. If you think my channel may assist other people, please subscribe and share this information so that other expats here in the Kingdom of Thailand can maybe avoid a lot of headache and get their application accepted at one time. Now, again, I'm no expert, you know. I'm not saying that I am. I've never done a retirement visa. So for those guys that are on a retirement visa say, oh, Teacher Thomas, you got it all wrong. Hey, I apologize, okay? All I'm saying is I know you don't need to do the wife, right? And I know your required lump sum is double 800K, and I know you have to have insurance. I haven't personally had the experience, so I'm not trying to advise those on retirement visa and saying this is exactly what you need to do. I'm telling you exactly what I did, and that it was 100% accurate and complete, right? And I know that you don't have to do the wife thing. So if there's additional requirements other than the insurance and the additional lump sum or income requirements, then please share that in the comments so we can help those guys on a retirement visa. But I know for a fact, at least in my province of Rayong, which is another question, you know, I can't speak for every district because sometimes you could go in with the exact 68 documents that I had, originals and photocopies, go into your precinct and they're going to come up with something that I didn't have to provide. So that's a possibility. I know that Prayut and the government is trying to, there was some stuff in the Bangkok Post about every immigration office should be the same. This is what we would call a federal issue in America. They call a state here because, it's one state, one country of Thailand, right? So you're really not supposed to have different rules in different provinces. It's not like it's a province or a county issue. It's a one country. Here's the immigration law. Here's the requirements that applies to every precinct, right? But unfortunately, there's a lot of miscommunication and mistranslations and stuff like that goes on between different immigration officers. But what I've found is even if you think you are 100% accurate, you're like, I know I got this right, and you go in there and the immigration officer's like, no, you have to do, X, Y, Z, or you just have to do X. Don't, you know, blow up and go, now I know you're wrong because I've done this before and blah. That's not going to get you anywhere, right? Question, if you can't speak Thai and you have someone there, question, make sure you get clarification exactly what they're requiring you. This is the best approach. Maintain respect, right? This is the best approach, regardless of your situation, your province didn't do like my province. Don't get argumentative or combative with these people. Don't do that, man. It's just not going to do you any good. So you have to have a lot of patience in Thailand, and understand that very complex, on this immigration law and stuff. So never go in there, completely confident that you're going to be successful, even though you did exactly what Teacher Thomas showed you today, step by step. You had all your documents. You know you're right. You go in there, immigration officers like, oh, come back after you have this. Well, I wasn't expecting to come back because I thought I had everything right. Don't be combative. Just like have no expectations, right? Be confident in yourself and your ability to do this on your own, but don't have any expectation. Go in there. If they reject you, get clarification as to what is wrong. What document don't I not have? Is there a problem with the owner or in the possessor issue? Make sure you get clarification. What exactly do I need to correct when I come back? Because get this, when you come back, you're going to have to go update your bank book again, right? Because you can't use the previous updated. Update the bank book the day you go turn the application in, whether it's your second day, your third try of the application, whatever day it is when you're going, make sure it's updated that day because that will be an automatic rejection. If you go in there and say, yeah, but I was in here 3 days ago and that's when I updated my bank book showing that I still have that money. They don't care. They can't accept it unless that bank book is updated that day. So these are things, And now I know, like our marriage license, when we go to the city hall, the AMFO office, and get that paper that updates, that we are still married. Rayong, they said that paper's good for 6 months once it's updated. Nakhon Nayok, they made us update it the day of the application, like we had to prove that we hadn't been divorced that day, right? So there you go. That's the difference in the provinces. Did I argue with Nakhon Nayok and say, hey, no, 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 you're wrong. I've done this before, and I know that uh, affidavit stamp that we're still married from AMFO office is good for 6 months. No, I didn't do that. I just clarified what is wrong with this paper, and they said it has to be updated today. Whew. I was upset, but I never let it show, right? What we do, we went to the AMFO office and updated it and came back the same day, right? So you run into these kind of things. So even though I'm trying to give you step by step to make it easy and guaranteed success, doesn't mean that you should have that expectation when you get there, right? So remember that. But anyway, I hope everybody's doing well. Peace and love. Peace and love from Teacher Thomas here in Ban Chang Rayong. Haven't been putting out a whole lot of videos, to be honest with you. I had made some, and I was just a little reserved about putting out any content about what was going on locally with the businesses and stuff during the pandemic. I know a lot of the other vloggers were doing that, and kudos to you. But this is my hobby. I don't do it for any monetary gain, and never will, right? So it's just a hobby. When I make videos of fishing or swimming or whatever, if you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. I don't really care. Main thing is my family and family and friends back in America get to share my experience and stuff. So, but obviously this is not about them. They don't give a crap about all this. My family and friends are not going to watch any of this video. So this video is for the expat community here in Thailand. I have a lot of respect for a lot of you vloggers out there. One of my favorites is Foreigner Joe. Oh man, this guy, his background is amazing. Dedicated patriot, American Armed Services and DoD civilian work. Great guy, and he really invested in a lot of equipment. Got a drone and doing all these cool videos and all these locations and stuff. And he's not doing it for monetary reasons. He's just doing it for a hobby. His channel's grown as it should because it's good content. But that's like my favorite. Because I mean, it's not that I don't respect the guys that are doing it to earn money from YouTube. I mean, to each their own. If you need extra money and you want to use your YouTube channel for that, then you know kudos to you, man. But Joe's one of my favorites. I love Chuck and Paige up in Isan. Land of Smiles, good. I'm not just being biased because they're Americans or whatever. There's a lot of good vloggers out there, and I don't know how many are doing this kind of stuff, but I feel obligated as a teacher here in Thailand to try to break things down, simplify it, do what I would do for students, and explaining things in a thorough way so that they understand, and it makes it easier for them to pass the test, right? This is a test. We all go through this test every year. So, anyway, once again, peace and love to everyone. And we're going to get past this COVID stuff. We're going to be back to normal. It's going to happen. Keep the faith, man. Love you guys. Be happy. All right? See you later. Teacher Thomas out.